Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you all to the Temple Terrace City Redevelopment Agency meeting. It's 17:40, 5:40 p.m. We're going to call the meeting to order. The first order of business, item 1A, approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. If the minutes are acceptable, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Motion is second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion is carried. We're going to move on to item 2 now, which is business items, and turn it over to City Attorney Mark Conley and explain what the process is going to be for our meeting this evening, and then we will go on to presentations.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. So the way that this will proceed this evening is that the developers will each be given an opportunity to give a presentation. I believe those presentations, Mr. Vice Mayor, will be 20 minutes apiece, and then followed up by questions by City Council of approximately 10 minutes or so. After the developer presentations and the questions of the City Council, it'll be followed up by comments by the folks here that would like to make comments about what they saw this evening or anything else relating to the redevelopment. So.
Okay, thank you. I believe the city clerk is sitting over there on my right-hand side, the assistant city clerk. So if anybody's going to have requests to speak later, please turn them into her so she can get them up here to us at the conclusion of the presentations. And I believe when the presentations start, council is going to move to seats over here, Corey. And we're going to move over there so we can get the presentations going. And for the first presentation, we're going to have Suncoast Retail Developers Incorporated. I believe they're present here this evening. And so council's going to move over to the seats over there. We'll let them come up to the podium and make their presentation. I think we probably have to turn on the thing now when we move.
My name is David Owen, and I'm the founder and president of Suncoast Retail Developers. We're a commercial real estate development company based in Tampa Bay area. I have over 27 years experience in the commercial real estate industry, including brokerage, real estate law, and most importantly, development. I'm a licensed Florida real estate broker, as well as a licensed Florida real estate attorney. I spent over 10 years honing my developer skills at the Sembler Company in St. Petersburg, Florida, where I ran Sembler's highly successful build-to-suit development program. I founded Suncoast Retail Developers over 4 years ago to continue my success with retail and commercial developments. I've completed more than 70 retail and commercial developments and have several more currently under development. I've been involved in multiple mixed-use projects, including Winter Garden Village in the Orlando area, Oakleaf Town Center in Jacksonville, and Legacy Place in Palm Beach Gardens. So I understand the complexities of creating a unified, first-class, mixed-use development. In the Tampa market, I recently completed a Walgreens on Fletcher Avenue, a Wawa, a Bloomingdale and 301 in Brandon, and the Shops at Van Dyke Plaza on North Dale Mabry in North Tampa. Suncoast has selected Flournoy as their development partner for the multifamily component of this mixed-use project. At this time, I'd like to introduce Tom Flournoy, President, and Joel Mize, Vice President of Flournoy Companies, to speak a little bit more about their company.
Thank you, David. I'm Tom Flournoy, the President of Flournoy Development Company. Our company is located in Columbus, Georgia, but we have done 4 previous developments here in the Tampa market, as well as a number of others in Florida. We have 2 of them currently under construction, one in Clearwater and one in actually Hillsborough County, right at Westchase, the entrance there. Multifamily is really what we do. We're an integrated company. We develop it, build it, and we have our own property management company. So we do the whole thing. I think one of the benefits that Dave sort of brings to the table is he's an expert in retail and we're an expert in the multifamily business. We're in our 50th year. We have, I've got a local vice president here, Joel Mize, who lives in the Tampa market. He's been in multifamily. He's worked with Opus, Colonial, and Crescent Resources. He's been with the Flournoy Company for 3 years now. He's working really on these two projects and another one down in Melbourne. So he brings a lot of local knowledge. So we're here. We have our teams. We're on the jobs at all times. Charlene, can you go to the site plan, please? We have, Joel has worked on this with our engineer in a preliminary basis, trying to think about it. What we really want to point out is we've got 4-story buildings. All of these are elevator serviced. We think that really brings something to the table in terms of lack of obsolescence, because either young married couples who might have children need an elevator, because if you're on the 2nd or 3rd floor without an elevator, that's tough. And the other part is we have an aging population. It provides access to all floors with the elevator, complete access for everybody. We tried to integrate some pedestrian access. If you'll see on the left-hand side, it's kind of hard to see on that picture. And we are buffering the road with the building. And so you don't look out and see just a sea of parking lot. And we think that really adds to the vibrancy of the area. We have got proposed 263 units. We think the more people that we can bring in here, it revitalizes the center and adds this is a very walkable project. That's one of the things we like about it. We have full amenity package here. We'll have pool, fitness center, dog park, dog wash, bike wash, playground, and grills, and conference center. What else? I think that's so. All this is preliminary, but we really put some of the thought and the history of our development into this, thinking that this is a way to utilize it. And as you can see, we've got the same park that's existing, trying to keep it there and utilize that facility, upgrade it. If it doesn't work, we'll rebuild it. So, Joel, did I miss anything? Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. As you can probably tell, we selected Flournoy for the apartment component of this project, not just based on their impressive history and financial ability, but also based on their years of knowledge and experience in the multifamily industry, and our common vision for a walkable, unified, connected, first-class mixed-use development at this important gateway to Temple Terrace. If selected, you can rest assured that you've chose a winning team with a clear vision and proven ability to deliver and to close. As the master developer of this project, this will be Suncoast Retail's top priority, and I will personally quarterback this project in every aspect and every detail to ensure that this project will be favorably received as a showcase for the city of Temple Terrace. As Tom said, in addition to the 263 apartments, our vision includes the park, green space areas, sit-down restaurants, retail shopping, and banking in a pedestrian-friendly environment. To that end, we've already received significant interest from restaurants, retailers, and financial institutions. At this point, we'd like to open it up for questions.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation, Council. I'll open it up to Council. As you see, members to go ahead and pose any questions of the Suncoast presentation. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I probably don't need a microphone since I'm talking to you, but I want everybody to hear what the questions are. You know, we have this little thing called Chapter 29, which I'm sure you've been given and asked to read, what have you. And that obviously is what created this in the first place. It's the vision of the community and you've heard all that, and you know that, believe it or not, they weren't trying to recreate Disney World or anything like that. They're definitely looking for an urban, user-friendly, walking environment, okay? Now, with that said, and I realize that a downtown area has to have a high density of people. So I'm not opposed to apartments. What I want to know from you is, how do you create a space that when I'm in that space, even if I don't live there, that it feels like it's fluid, that it's all part of the commercial piece? So be prepared, everybody. That's my question. Okay. So how do you propose to blend that commercial? Because when I look at the pictures, I see a lot of parking spaces, okay? And I realize that businesses have to have that. We all drive cars, what have you. But, how do you make it so that it looks as much like a downtown more than a shopping center? I guess that's really what I'm sorry, that's my question.
First of all, we've site plan up anymore, but we've positioned the buildings streetscaped so that it's along the street, and put a lot of the parking behind the buildings. We've maintained the main corridor coming through that leads to the park, and this is all going to be open drives, open parking. Tom can speak more about the apartments, but this is not a gated off apartment complex where you're not going to be able to walk around and see any of that. The buildings will be secure, but not the outside green space areas, nor the park, nor the transition and the walkways and green space between the apartment component and the retail component.
Okay, that's good to hear, because we're looking for another neighborhood in Temple Terrace, not some conclave of apartments. My next question would be, how will you use what we've developed in our overlay? Things like, this thing is very detailed. It has sidewalks are a certain space, and all these wonderful things that we've placed so that when you're in that area, walkability is enhanced, and you get a feeling that you can walk from one place to the other and not get in your car and go someplace else, that you would stay there. So I know that you know all that. Once again, we're going to say that you've read all the details, and there are thousands of them. Yes, there are. So just, I guess what I want to know is, how do you take those businesses, and is the plan to have outdoor seating? And because I see cars parked right up to the buildings themselves, which doesn't normally, and I realize you have to figure out a way so that the businesses can have those cars, but is there a way to make me feel better about having the cars so close to the businesses, so many cars, I guess is what I'm saying?
This was a preliminary plan that was put together, to try to give a vision of some basic parameters. Obviously, restaurants, the market demands outside seating in this area, and walkability. You can see there's a lot of green on the site plan, and green space. What you can't tell is the dimensions, because this is such a large project, the dimensions of the actual space. But there are obviously, for the restaurant component, there will be outdoor seating, there'll be walking, there'll be sidewalks, and green space areas to walk around so that it flows. There's multiple connectivity points, both into this development as well as within this development, for people to both walking, biking, with strollers, dogs, what have you, to get around. We're going to make sure that we're fully parked, and that we don't have overflow where people don't have anywhere to park and driving around, but also to have plenty of room for all the rest.
Okay.
The actual locations and things and sizes may change based on market demand. If a restaurant wants to be here and they need to be a certain setup, width and dimensions, we can do that, and we can accommodate them with a large outside or with whatever they want to do.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Any other comments?
Mr. Owen, to you and Mr. Flournoy, I want to first of all thank you for expressing an interest in the city of Temple Terrace. I think the challenge that we've faced in the past is that as a community, we've had a vision that is not supported by the actual economics that drive certain projects. And those of you in the business know exactly what I'm talking about. Certainly, we want to do a very nice project that reflects the character and image of Temple Terrace. Folks are very passionate about this. You see, it's a pretty full house. I have a couple of questions, and some of these questions will be asked to the other folks as well. So I'm just trying to flesh out some of the details so we know what we're looking at. One of those is you have what would be, and I want to hear from you because we have different numbers that keep throwing at us. What would be the value of the retail component and the value of the residential component, because we're looking at tax dollars at the end of the day. So what is when you build your retail components, what is the dollar value? What are you anticipating the dollar value of that? And what are we anticipating the dollar value of the residential community as well? Do you have that information?
You know, while this is we're still finalizing the users and what have you, a 3-acre project the 3-acre component for the retail portion like this would probably be valued in the $12 to $20 million range, you know, at build out. And I'll let Tom speak to, or Joel speak about the value of the multifamily component.
Is the tax assessor in the room?
Yes.
Generally, what we would see this project being is about, I mean, depending upon the final number of units, probably in the range of $150,000 a door. I mean, that's the easy way to put it. Because it may be $150,000 a door.
Okay.
Per unit. I mean, you know, just take that and sort of say, how many do we put there? If it's up or down or something, that's probably the best way to look at it. Because, you know, as you go through the site plan and get into the details, that site plan we have, you know, is going to move around, and generally they go down. As you got to fit in a little bit of storm here and parking there, because what's critical is this is America. We have cars. People have to have their car. If they can't park their car, they're going to live somewhere else, which means this is not an economically viable product for me, and that's not good for the community or anybody. So unfortunately, we have to, you know, you have to build that. But the flip side is, I think there's a benefit for having it dense, more people here. So it's a trade.
Okay. So to help me understand the scope of your project, I think in your presentation you indicated 263 units, right? Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Off this preliminary plan.
I get it. So I'm just trying to get an idea. I'm trying to put my arms around this to some degree. So at 150,000, that's what, 39 million and change? Okay. Give or take. I know it's going to change a little bit, but just to have a ballpark. So we're looking at basically a $50 to $60 million project. I think the two combined, if that's a fair assessment. What do you anticipate the average rent in your units to be?
What do we have though? I'll let Joel answer that. He's put the pro forma together for us.
Sure, I think our pro forma is $1.47 a square foot per unit, and so it works out to 1,400 something, 1,420 a unit is what we were proposing the average rent to be.
Okay. Is it a mixture of ones,
Ones,
twos,
twos, and threes, correct.
One,
Yeah.
twos, and threes, okay. And what kind of parking are you allocating ratio parking for this apartment complex?
I think we were just under 2 parking spaces per unit based on your code. The civil engineer who we work with is looking at your code when he put the plan together. And so I know we're trying to keep it as close to minimum as we can, but yet, as Tom said, making sure that we provide enough parking spaces so that the project is successful. So We typically like to be about 1.7, 1.7 to 1.8, and so that's where, we'd like to end up.
Okay. Is there, and this is the time to ask the questions, and I'm trying to flush all this out. I just don't want to have any hidden surprises behind. Are there going to be any asks of the city aside from the project? Is there going to be, we've talked, you guys have submitted a tentative proposal. Is there going to be any asks of the city as far as impacts or whatever else that may come forward?
I don't believe so. I mean, we've been presented some facts about, how stormwater is taken care of and things like that. And, but no, we're not asking for
Okay.
contributions or, tax relief or anything like that
Okay.
for this project. Absolutely
Okay.
not.
Great.
I think the only thing I would point out is, I think the only ask was not monetary, but of a timeline, that y'all had a tight timeline you wanted us to go through, and it would require that the city cooperate to the degree it can to expedite the same thing, because we can't build it until we get everything permitted.
I understand.
That, we didn't have anything in our pro forma for any concession or anything from the city.
Okay. And the same question towards the retail component. What do we anticipate the price per square foot for your retail component? It's retail, there's no office from what I understand, it's all retail?
It's right now. It's commercial. It's I mean, could we end up with a medical office or something as a small component, possibly? But it's really retail that's coming out, and the market's really going to dictate the rents and then the type of use. If it's a single use building, then it really depends on the the value to give us a rent that the tenant's going to pay. For the multi-tenant component, we're probably going to be in the mid-30s per foot for a small shop retail.
Is that gross or is that
That would be net plus CAM, obviously.
plus grade? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate your forwardness with the questions.
A couple of questions. This particular concept with the multifamily mixed in with the retail and having the Winn-Dixie next door, is that something that you guys have done elsewhere? And if the answer is yes, I guess my real concern is, if I were staying here, I might have a concern with the fact that there's no secure parking, that your parking is, I know you're parking behind the building, but you essentially have complete access to anybody that's shopping at Winn-Dixie or any other places can drive their car around the back of the complex without being impeded in any way. Have you looked at possibly doing some more secure parking for the multifamily part of it?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Is the question that you're concerned about the commercial parking using our parking, or is it the security?
It's, yes, all the above.
Okay. Security concerns me, but I think in order to do what this site needs, I don't know that you can secure it. So you're going to have to either patrol it or manage it to the best you can. And my concern is that you do have some shared parking right up next to the dentist office that's on the south side of the site. I think you're going to have to look at that, and I'm going to say that's going to belong to us, but it's going to be used by somebody else during the day
Sure.
and the weekends, and it's part of property management that you have to do. We have had situations like this where we've done some urban development, and it becomes a pain to the property manager, but that's what you're in the business of, is property management, and it's active property management. I think what Joel and Dave mentioned, we're going to secure the buildings. You do have the issue of the cars, but think you do that with lighting of the parking lots and security. Because there's no way you can effectively create a secured property out of this.
And all 4 buildings that you're showing on your conceptual plan for the residential piece, that's all rental units?
Everything's rental, that's
Everything's
correct.
rental,
There actually, technically, there'd be 6 rental buildings because there's a 2-story building on each side of the pool.
Gotcha, okay. And I'm not asking for specific dates or anything, but what do you see your phasing being? Are you gonna build all the residential and then build the retail? Are you gonna do it all at the same time, or how do you anticipate the project being phased?
We would build the retail, it's all at once, yeah, I
All
mean,
at one
you know, it may be, you can answer retail, but we would go in and build all of our apartments at one time.
Okay.
We would be looking to do this entire project all at once.
All at once.
Yes, absolutely.
And as to the, couple of questions, as to the type of construction for both the commercial and the residential, do you anticipate the buildings being block or frame, a combination of both, or how do you anticipate that being constructed?
All of our apartment buildings would be type 5 wood construction with elevators, which is exactly what we're doing everywhere else. I mean, both projects we're doing in Tampa right now are the same exact construction. As a matter of fact, this floor plan that Joel used is very similar to the units we're doing in West Chase and down at Clearwater right now.
So first floor up to the 4th floor, all wood frame?
All wood frame, all type 5, correct. You'll have concrete elevator shaft and the rest of the building be wood.
And on the commercial side?
On the commercial side, we'll be using a concrete block. I'd say unless we have a national retailer with a prototype that calls for something else, but for the most part, it's concrete block construction.
And on your conceptual plan, you're showing right now, and I realize it's conceptual, basically 3 one-story commercial buildings. Have you given any thought to multi-level commercial buildings with office above retail or anything like that?
Obviously, pursuant to your code, we need to have the look and feel of a 2-story or multi-story. It's been our experience, you know, after so many years in development, second floor commercial simply does not work in very many places at all. And we want to have a viable project that is fully leased and not a lot of vacancies. So we would not be looking to do second floor commercial.
And when you say commercial, you're including office in that?
Well, it's mainly retail. It's retail, but yes, you know, the second floor office, retail, whatever, what have you, it rarely works.
Thank you. Okay.
I had a couple of questions, some of them have been answered already. For Mr. Flournoy, I have a couple of questions. See a long list of apartment complexes that you guys build and manage across the country. My question are, do you always retain the complexes that you build, or do you sell some of them off?
We sell some of them off.
About, I'm looking for an exact figure, but can you give me a ballpark of the percentage that you sell off versus the one that you build and retain?
Probably, we sell 70%. Generally, they're sold to either a public REIT or a private operator that generally, I think, I understand, I've heard that question many times, and it's like, we build a nice first-class product either to own or to sell. And the higher the quality and the better the rents and the better it looks, the better the price it sells for. And generally, the operators who are buying them are very serious about operating first class. It's really no difference between us owning it, or somebody else owning it.
Right.
We've developed over 200 projects over the years, and either by virtue of selling or something, we own almost none of the original projects we've developed. It's the nature of our business, really.
How many years have you guys been building these complexes?
This is our 50th year. company was started in '67 by my oldest brother, John, after he got out of the Marine Corps. He's still in the business. He just turned 77. And I guess I've been working there for 48 years. So
Okay.
same group, same building, same package of us going together.
Okay, and one last question, and of the 30% or so that you guys build and retain in your portfolio, does your company accept Section 8 for any of the ones that you retain?
No.
Okay, and thank you, gentlemen, for coming, expressing your interest in Temple Terrace. Thank you for traveling here and presenting with us tonight, and appreciate your coming and your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate the presentation. And just so everyone knows, this is kind of an informational presentations by all the groups. Council, the agency will not making a decision tonight on any of the three presenters. That will be done by our meeting on November 7th. And this is just for our questioning, and if there are questions that council members had that, you know, couldn't be answered, they would be presented to us between this week while we can digest the information that's being provided so the citizens could digest it. And we'll open up, after all three presenters are done, we will open up to the citizens for comments. Next, I would like to have the Richmond group will make a presentation to us. I believe they are here, and we will move over to our seats on the side there so they can, if they put it on the projector for everyone to see.
Hello, everyone. My name's Ely Banks. I'm with the Richmond Group. Thank you for letting me present today. It's an exciting opportunity. Little background on the Richmond Group. We're a privately held company based out of Greenwich, Connecticut, with development offices all over the country. I work out of the West Palm Beach office, where we've had offices for over 20 years. Though we develop all over the country, we have a strong emphasis in the state of Florida. And within the state of Florida, a very strong emphasis within the Tampa Bay MSA. We've developed several thousand units within the Tampa Bay MSA. Something unique about our company is that we're long-term holders. A lot of developers build, stabilize, and sell, but we just have a different philosophy, and we keep pretty much everything we build. We manage it ourselves through our management company, Richmond Property Services. Something else unique about our company is that often when it comes to acquisitions, we self-fund. Rather than partnering with an equity partner or a JV partner, we have the internal funding sources to take down the land. So, this site reminds me of a project we just completed in Tampa, in the West Shore Business District. It's called Grady Square, and it's on the slideshow later. I'll show it to you in a little bit. But it had a mixed-use component to it. We really wanted to do the multifamily, but it had other components to it. We wanted to do a commercial component, have a restaurant, maybe a for-sale component with townhomes. We don't do for-sale product, so we took down the property, self-funded, and we sold the commercial off to a restaurant here, where there's a Miller's Ale House now. We completed the 300 apartment complex, and we sold the townhome portion to a high-end townhome developer. And this project reminds me of that project in some ways, just with the mixed-use components. We have a lot of experience in doing those types of projects. We don't often develop the retail ourselves, but we like the ability to maybe find the retail developer, choose them, and control the project that way. That's why I'm trying not to throw Bruce under the bus here, but he told me I could. I asked him last week if we could resubmit a new offer for the whole 12 acres, and he told me I could, so we did. And it would be to take down the whole 12 acres instead of just the 9 that we've been focusing on. After a lot of contemplation and mystery surrounding who the tenants were going to be and what the uses were going to be, we felt like it would be best to control the process ourselves, to create, as much continuity as possible. from an aesthetic standpoint, and also to make sure we know what the uses are going to be and eventually who the tenants are going to be before we agree to do anything. Whether we're allowed to move forward with that proposal is up to you guys, but that's what we decided we wanted to do. If we're still left to just work on the 9 acres, that's fine as well, but our preference would be to take down the whole 12. So, this project, we originally proffered 200 units. We since then wanted to see how many units we could fit on the site comfortably, and we fell on 300. A mixture of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. 2 buildings, 1 3-story, 1 4-story with elevator. Here's a copy of the site plan. It might be difficult to see the exact square footages. I can read them to you if you like. It's hard for me to see through. So it would be 120 one-bedroom units. Looks like 150 two-bedroom units, 30 three-bedroom units. And this is conceptual. At this point, it could shift. I don't see it growing beyond 300 units. I could see it going less than 300 units. We would have been perfectly fine with the original 200 units, but felt like at the end of the day, maybe a more dense project would be better for all parties involved. From a square footage standpoint, we're looking at, wow, this is tough to read, 354,000 gross square feet. There was a question asked earlier about ad valorem taxes, and that's a big deal. We did a study to try to determine, based off of just the 300 units, because the retail's so up in the air, it's really tough to determine at this point, what the revenue generation would be of that. And just for the 300 apartment units, it would be roughly $690,000 in annual revenue. That wouldn't all go to Temple Terrace. Y'all's portion would be roughly $230,000 to $235,000 annually. These are some elevations. We're really trying to stick with a Mediterranean theme, and that's why at the end of the day we'd like to control the retail, just so there's a flow and the aesthetics match. Outdoor amenities, resort style pool, sun deck, private cabanas, dog walking area, custom outdoor grilling stations, fire pit, outdoor lounge furniture, social breezeways, complimentary Wi-Fi, gate and controlled access. I'm going to go back to the site plan. So we're going to have gates. This is all fenced. We're thinking a wall going along the back, and then gated access. This would be fenced with a gate there and there. We went back and forth on it, and the security is just too much of an issue. From a liability standpoint, from a personal safety standpoint, I mean, we really just want our folks secure in their parking lots. So if that's something the city doesn't want, we can talk about it. But we find that folks in their apartment complexes just feel a lot better when they're fenced in and safe. So these are the outdoor amenities, and these are pictures of the outdoor amenities. And the indoor amenities, state-of-the-art fitness center with yoga and spin studio, on-demand fitness classes, media, game room, business center, club room with lounge and billiards, complimentary Wi-Fi hotspots in all common areas, and this is what that looks like. This is a project we just finished in Tampa called Aurora. It's currently in lease up. And now I'm just going to show you photos of similar completed projects, all within the last couple or few years. This one downtown Tampa was just finished. Brady Square, I spoke to it earlier. This was part of that mix of uses. This is the apartment complex. This is Portico, also in lease up. We just finished it in Sunrise, Florida, next to the Sawgrass Plantation Mall. This Gain 27, this is under construction now, and it's somewhere else that we have ground floor retail. I think the Gateway, site we finished in Dallas a few years ago. So, between our experience, our track record, our capacity, we think it would be, a great opportunity for us and you guys, and we hope we can move forward. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. This time we'll start at the other end with Mr. Ross, Member Ross.
Thank you. I was hoping to get the benefit of everybody's questions as it moved down. Mr. Banks, thank you. Yeah. Mr. Banks, thank you for coming here tonight and sharing your presentation with us and your interest in Temple Terrace. I just had one question as I was making my notes here. I noticed that one of the last slides involved a project you did that had a similar project with ground floor retail. Can you speak to that a little bit? Was there any thought of that here? Because as you probably know from reading our background, that's very much what we've been hoping for. Would that not work here?
Unfortunately not.
Can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. That property is in Edgewater on Biscayne Boulevard in Miami. And the rents are just really, really high. And I just, economically, we talk about the economics of everything, and I just don't think ground floor retail could be supported by the rents. And that's not a knock on Temple Terrace. There are very few places that in Florida where those rents can be supported.
What do you anticipate the rents being in this particular building?
Very, very similar in that $145 to $1.50 a foot range, based on a 1,000 square foot unit. We're talking an average of in the $1,400 and something range,
And
depending on the size of the unit. If it's a smaller unit, obviously it would be a lower price.
Okay. And some of the same questions I had for the others was, do you plan on just blowing and going and building it all at once, or is there a phasing plan?
Yes, no, we build it all at once.
Okay. And do you do the construction yourself, or you outsource the GC for that?
We've partnered with GCs in the past, and that would be a possibility. If not, we would, bring in a GC that we've worked with before.
Okay. And the construction, framing, block?
Frame.
All frame?
Yes.
Okay. Give me a minute.
But keep in mind, since we build to hold, we build to a level of quality to where we don't think about the next few years. We think about managing it and marketing it 20 plus years from now, because we're going to own it, we're going to manage it. So it's
Right.
very important to us that it stays marketable and beautiful for a very, very long time.
Okay, your presentation addressed some of the security issues from the last question. What about Section 8? Do you guys ever do that kind of?
We've done affordable housing before, but this would be a market rate apartment complex that wouldn't have an affordability component.
Okay. You mentioned briefly that you're thinking about taking the entire 12 acres. What would be your plan for the, I guess let's call it the commercial side of it? Are we looking at single-story buildings like the other presentation, or do you think multi-story building might work, or just, I guess, give me your initial thoughts. I realize that you don't have anything concrete yet, but I'd just like to hear what your thoughts are.
It's really what the market would dictate. I would say, I tend to agree that multi-story commercial is hard to work in a lot of markets from an economic viability standpoint. Never say never, but it'd be too early to answer that question, honestly.
And how many square feet would you anticipate of retail being on the rest of the site?
I had it on there. That was hard to read, too. Wow. I can't read it. I think it was in the 25 to 30,000 square foot range, but that's very conceptual.
Sure.
Very, very conceptual.
Understood.
And it's in the packages that I sent you guys.
Which is also hard to read.
Right. But on the computer, we can maximize it.
Thank you, that's all I have for now.
Thank you.
What is the value, I know you said what the dollar amount was, what is the value of this residential component in dollars? How much per door, as we got from the previous presenter?
Sure. When you asked, you can look at that from a lot of different approaches. A lot of that is predicated upon cap rates, income approach, replacement values. So there are lots of ways that question can be answered. I felt like it was probably closer to maybe, I don't know, 175,000 a door. But it's tough to say. It's tough to say, but somewhere in that range. I mean, but you know, I'd say probably, depending on the amount of units, give or take, around a $50 million project for the multifamily.
And I know you stayed away from explaining much of the retail, but what ballpark value, you must have some kind of idea in your head, because you said you submitted an offer for the retail component. Obviously 1 + 1 has to equal 2 for the value submitted. So what kind of value are you anticipating in the
I think the
retail?
12 to 20 million range, depending on the size.
12 to 20.
Is probably realistic.
Okay. And the parking is your answer similar to the previous folks, or parking ratios?
Similar.
Okay.
The code, I mean, you really, on a deal with a unit mix like this, you really try to have, on a mix like this, no lower than 1.65. So in that 1.75, 1.8 range is good.
And you've done preliminary studies or analysis to show that, because the previous presenter showed 263 apartments, you're showing 300. That's substantially a little more parking there. So I just want to make sure that what we're hearing is going to be similar. It can fluctuate a little bit, but not drastically. Similar to what you're proposing, because you're adding another 37 units, which is 50-something parking spaces, whatever that's quite a bit of. If you're not doing any structured parking, that's a lot of additional parking.
And we worked on it with our engineer and
Okay.
entitlements manager.
Okay, so you're
It's to code.
You're comfortable with that 300 unit range approximately, as you indicated?
Yes, sir. It won't go up.
I understand that.
And it could go down, but yes, that's what we were able to fit on the side.
It could go down 15, 20, not 150.
No, definitely not.
Okay. That's all I have right now. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
You said you were going to be nice.
I did say I was going to be nice. I can be nice. So the question is, you're adding more apartments and less parking, but you're fencing it in. So when I, as a neighbor, come into this, what I thought was going to be a walkable community, my walk is a sidewalk as I walk past this community. I'm not part of this community because of that. I mean, is there a walkable component to go along with this security? not too sure that I see how those two
Work at the
blend.
same time?
Yeah, they can't.
No.
Okay.
And
So
I think security is
okay.
more important.
I realize if we had a 5-story building, that would be secure all the way up, but this obviously is a neighborhood. Okay. And a downtown neighborhood is different. I recognize that from my little street of 10 houses. I get that. But it is a concern to me that this would be a walled-off, separated neighborhood.
I mean, there'll be interaction, obviously, because they're two sites bifurcated by a street. So I understand what you're saying about it being walled or fenced off.
Mhm.
But, I mean, you're either going to be secure or you're not.
So how do those fences work? The way your buildings are laid out, you obviously have two across, one across the street from the other, but then you have one that is one long linear building. Am I looking at the right plan?
Sure, so.
Okay.
um,
Are those all one fenced-in area, that particular,
There'll be a fence
the larger one?
here with the gate access there, and then here to there with the gate access there, and then gate access there, and then here.
Okay.
Could we bring up that slide so everybody can see what here means?
They can see it with the lights on. So, oh, great, now it's really, yeah.
So there'll be gate access here, and then here, and then here, and here.
Okay, so while you're standing there,
Thank you.
so the way the apartments are laid out, as I'm driving down Bullard Parkway, what is that buffer? Is that strictly landscape? Is there parking there? What am I looking at the very northern piece?
Landscaping.
Okay, and a fence,
There's a fence,
okay, which is,
and like a wrought iron type fence
Mhm.
with landscaping buffers.
okay. You realize that you have a lot more apartments in much taller buildings, so what is the square footage then of those apartments? What's the average? What would
Around
you say,
Around 1,000 square feet.
1,000 square feet? Okay. All right, so my other question is, the way our code is built, we've asked that the buildings, and you probably don't have to stand there anymore. We've asked that the buildings have elevations that make it appear that they are a variety of buildings. So like you would have in a downtown space. But in looking at the pictures of your other buildings, there appear to be, and I'm not being critical, I'm just saying there's a lot of flat space with windows and a few awnings. What's the elevation? How do you see that you could change the elevation for our downtown so that it makes it appear that there are multiple buildings? Is that something that is doable, is considerable? Because one of our things specifically says in our code is that we will not have a flat wall of a building.
Sure, and there'll be dimension. There'll absolutely be dimension. There'll be, different types of things, via landscaping, awnings, balconies, those types of things. It won't appear
All the way up.
flat and institutional
But all the way up, it will have that.
all the way.
All the way up. There will be dimension all the way up to the 4th floor.
Oh, absolutely.
Different roof elevations.
Oh,
and-
and not necessarily roof elevations. I mean, there are different roof elevations, but there'll be balconies. There'll be different types of stone texture and different types of landscaping. It'll be pretty, I promise.
So one of the things that was asked before was what is it that what type of waivers do you see yourself asking us for? Because, this.
Concessions?
Pardon?
Concessions?
Waivers in general. I mean, things, we've asked for, as you know, you've read this thing, it's many, many pages long. And believe it or not, we've whittled it down, all right? Our zoning overlay is smaller than it used to be. So it's not as onerous as it used to be. However, it is very detailed. I mean, the size of our sidewalks, the elevations, you know, how openings, doors, I mean, all those things. Do you see, in looking at that, since you've studied it already, do you see that you have 1 or 2, 20? I mean, how many waivers do you think you might be coming to us for?
I have no idea, hopefully none.
Okay.
But we understand the sensitivity of this, and we've developed a lot of high-profile projects all over the country, and we understand, and we know that we're going to have to make you guys happy, so.
Well, that part I really appreciate.
We
That sounds
understand.
good. Because let me tell you what, you're not just making us happy, you're making them happy. One last question, and it has to do, with the commercial side. So because you've just decided that you want to do this, I realize you don't really have any concept, but how do you see the commercial side facing Bullard and 56th Street?
Well, we did a rough. almost
Okay, so that's,
That's right here.
okay, so that's part of it. It's not colored in, but it's,
Sure, it's more in black and white.
so I guess the question is,
And in the past, we've had similar developments where we've taken down the whole property and then sold off parcels to the Third Bank, Chase. So I mean, we can certainly see a lending institution here, restaurants, and shops. Part of the reason we want to control it is because we want to make sure who the tenants are going to be and make sure that the uses are compatible for our abutting property. Because we're going to own it for a very long time.
do you see a drive-through here?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. Was I nice enough?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, I just have one quick question.
Yeah,
Yes.
you can't ask a question.
I had to get on the interrogation line for a second there. Get back to the microphone.
I know Council, Agency Member Chilora asked the question of the first developer about any, not necessarily waivers, but any concessions that you would be looking at, and I don't think he addressed that last time, and he's over there discussing something else. I just wanted to ask about whether or not there'd be any concessions of the city that you would be requesting in this
No,
presentation.
based on everything we know now, no. No.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure we got that in, so, because it was previously asked.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Next, we're going to have the Paragon Group is going to go ahead and present, and we'll get the turn back on for you, and we will move down to our seats so you can do your presentation.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jared Moon. I'm the founder and president of Paragon Property Group. We are a Tampa-based retail development company. I'm a little different than some of the other presentations you heard today. I'm actually just after a little piece of the pie. My interest in this property is for the commercial component only, and I'll kind of go through what my vision for this project is. A couple things about your city. I obviously have spent a lot of time digging into the past, read a lot of articles on what transpired with this project from before. I live in a small community. I live in Safety Harbor, Florida. It's a community of about 18,000 people in Pinellas County. I just spent last night trick-or-treating in downtown with my kids. They shut down the street, so I know what it's like to have a true kind of downtown development that you can walk to, enjoy, grab a cup of coffee, have lunch, do some banking, that sort of thing. In fact, my office is in downtown as well. So as we kind of go through this, I'd like to think of myself as your partner and somebody who understands and appreciates what you're looking to accomplish, because quite frankly, that was something I sought out when I moved to Safety Harbor a year and a half ago. So I'm looking to acquire about 2.85 acres of the property, which is the retail component. I think it lines up essentially with what the other two developers have proposed as well for the retail piece. Let's go through a couple of the design functions. So my vision for this property is a 4-building design with a kind of hard corner feature that we'll kind of lay out as I go through the presentation. Mixed use, retail, financial, restaurants, medical, that sort of thing. Here are the proposed renderings. Again, this is just conceptual in nature. It takes into some considerations of the code, not all of them, unfortunately. I didn't have enough time to go through and create everything. Again, I'll go through some of the features as the presentation goes on, but this kind of gives you an idea of what I'm looking to accomplish for this 2.85 acres. Part of my design incorporates some of the Mediterranean style designs that you have already implemented throughout the city. I kind of want to pay homage to that, to your traditions, and continue that and maybe even enhance upon it. Again, this is the square that's already existing, so some of my design elements came from some of the existing products in the area. And then these next couple pictures are actually a project over in Trinity, Florida. This is the Trinity Town Center. It has a modern Mediterranean feel that I think some of the inspiration can come from. I know in your code you actually have it that there is a minimum height requirement of 2 stories. I think we're all here proposing a 1-story development, that 2 stories doesn't necessarily work. But this design in particular, I think, has done a really, really good job of incorporating some 2-story design, but keeping it a 1-story building. So again, this is just a product that isn't that far from here. It's probably a 45-minute drive that you can kind of get some inspiration from and get a feel for what it is that I'm trying to accomplish. I took about 10 pictures, all Mediterranean, color scheme, that sort of thing that matches what you've already put in place. So I'll go through these kind of quick. I have about 100 pictures too that I can email to you. So one of the things I think that differentiates myself from some of the other presenters is pedestrian space and a community feature. On the hard corner, I've dedicated between 9,000 and 10,000 square feet, so about 2/10 of an acre for pedestrian space. I have 2 particular elements called out in this. The first one is the tower that you see in the background, and the second one is the fountain. And there's a couple of different directions we can go with this. And as we go through the planning, and I meet with you individually, if I'm lucky enough to win this bid, we can hone in on what it is that you prefer and what you're looking for in this feature. So again, you already have a beautiful existing tower, your entrance downtown on 56th Street. Ultimately, I think the design would incorporate or match kind of what you already have with some twists. I threw in a bell tower here, and again, that bell tower is from Trinity Town Center. But we can have the tower behind the buildings there. It can be a clock tower. It can have signage on it. It can have something that calls out and differentiates yourself and says, hey, this is downtown Temple Terrace. Welcome to our community. So again, the first one is the tower that is behind the fountain. The second feature would be the fountain. And there's a couple of different directions that you can take that. The first direction, the upper left corner, that's actually the fountain in downtown Safety Harbor, right across the street from where I work. My kids will grab a coffee on Saturdays and they'll kind of splash around in there. Traditional circular fountain, hard surface surrounding it, and a bunch of benches. We can go that route, so your hard corner is a pedestrian-friendly place where people can come, sit, eat, enjoy the scenery, enjoy the sounds of the fountain, shop, grab coffee, grab breakfast, grab lunch, do some banking, whatever the case may be. The second rendering on the bottom right there, I picked that design because I think it actually kind of calls out that this is downtown Temple Terrace. I think your eye is drawn to the tower. People can still mingle, walk around, but it's a different feature. It's more of an entrance feature into a community as opposed to a pedestrian-friendly feature. Having not spent any time with any of your council members, I didn't know which direction you want to go, but I think either one is something that can absolutely be accomplished and I have budgeted for in my proposal. And then I have a third community feature, which is an arched towerway on the entrance basically in the middle of the retail component. As we were designing this project, actually my architect suggested that And once I saw how it kind of brings all the pieces together, I thought it was a great idea. And I just believe that this is something, again, that differentiates yourself from other communities, kind of defines the downtown area, is a feature that during holidays you can decorate, you can put different signage on there to advertise things for the city. Again, it's just an additional feature for the residents, but really depicting this as your downtown area. So let's get into the design elements. So I picked a 4-building design for a purpose. The sizes and square footage of the building, this design as currently constructed is 23,500 square feet. I think the ultimate project would be between 20 and 25,000 square feet. All of these buildings are the depth and dimensions of essentially every retail user out there. There are a couple single tenant users that would prefer their own prototype, but a lot of the single tenant users are fast food restaurants with drive-through, which are not allowed in this development. So, for instance, the blue building I have called out for a financial institution. Well, that's a 3,500 square foot building that's 70 by 50. That's very easily backfilled when and if the financial institution vacates into a restaurant or 2 single tenant uses. So where I'm going is these buildings are very easily adapted in the future by other uses without having to knock it down, break up the continuity of the drive aisles of the parking area. You're not changing the outside aesthetics. This really is something that can kind of stand the test of time and be here unchanged now into some unknown period in the future. The current site plan, I did the highest density and the highest use that I could, and I had 2 drive-through components, neither of which were restaurants. But again, if either of those uses either didn't come to fruition or in a future date were reused as something else, you're doing very minimal parking configuration changes. You're literally ripping out the drive-through area, pouring some new concrete or asphalt, and those spaces become parking spaces with minimal effect or, again, change or interruption to the existing tenants. So here's my picture for what the ideal tenant lineup would be. I'm going to kind of go building by building. We have dedicated the 2 end caps for this 10,000 square foot building as restaurants. Now, what's not really depicted on the site plan, but will be in place, and David even alluded to this earlier, is in today's environment, every restaurant wants an outdoor seating area. So the building at completion will probably be a little bit smaller with side seating on both end caps there to allow for, again, an area that you all can come, have lunch, hang out, be outside, enjoy the weather. We all live in Florida for a reason. Just maybe you won't sit out there in August, but the rest of the year you're good. Again, this building I have kind of designated for a financial institution. I will say that a financial institution is a tenant that I am working on their behalf that is in tow and is ready to do this project. And that is what is allowing me to kind of present to you today and be in contention and make a presentation, because I know it is somebody that I can actually deliver, and that one tenant allows me to go forward with the rest of the development. This is another 3,500 square foot building, and it could be a financial institution, it could be a restaurant, it could be mixed use retail. Again, it's very adaptive to a number of different retailers out there. We won't know what the final tenant lineup is until you actually take this to market, but like David, there's a tremendous amount of interest. There's a couple of different ways that could go, but it's a size that could be a single tenant or could be maybe a 2-tenant building. And then this last building is currently configured at 6,000 square feet. I actually envision this as more of a medical use. In the industry, we call them dock-in-a-box. Could be a dentist, a walk-in clinic, an optical concept, something along those lines. But it also lends itself size-wise to be a more traditional sit-down restaurant. You could go one of 2 ways on that. But again, I think either one, you kind of can't go wrong. So to answer some of the questions that you all have been asking to the two earlier presenters, I'm attempting to acquire 2.85 acres. I have a 4-building configuration. The ultimate size will be between 20 and 25,000 square feet. I've capped the value between 11 and 13 million, and the difference is based on what the final size configuration is. Using a 21 millage rate in totality on the deal, that generates a tax revenue of about $220,000 to $275,000. Again, not all of which is Temple Terrace. That's the total taxable value. I've implemented 3 community features into this design: the tower, the fountain, and the entrance art. I'm dedicating about 2/10 of an acre for pedestrian space. The ultimate project will be a mixed tenant lineup of financial uses, restaurants, medical, and then some traditional soft good retail. Building height to be discussed. I can certainly make the entire building look 2 stories. I do not have interest in doing a 2-story building. Retail on the 2nd floor doesn't work. I can tell you, and I mentioned before that I work in downtown Safety Harbor. I am in a mixed-use building. About 60% of the office space is vacant, and we are literally hard corner downtown. My office is on top of the Starbucks. So it's just not something that I would be willing to entertain. But I can certainly make a portion of the building or the whole development have a kind of a 2-story facade. Landscaping, again, I know that was a question that was asked. I haven't done a full landscape design. I mean, I know you have to do a palm tree every 20 feet, every 20 feet. We'll take that into consideration. But as we progress, we'll work with you on what that's going to look like. My development will be cement block, and the roof material will be tile to kind of match what you already have throughout the city. Project timeline. I think this is one thing that differentiates myself a little bit. I'm willing to close on this project in 5 months. I believe the other users are more in the 9, 10, 11-month range. My offer contemplated a 90-day due diligence period, a 60-day closing period, and then as far as the rest of the project is concerned, I'm projecting a 90-day permitting period. Again, that will be up to you all. When I say you all, the city, as far as making that happen. But I am told that is certainly a possibility. Construction period is about 180 days, 6 months to do site work and build the buildings. After you build the building, you typically turn it over to the tenant, and then they have 3 months to do their internal build out, the fixture, furniture, and equipment. And then they're open for business. So my total project, from contract execution to you all being able to eat and enjoy the downtown area, is about 510 days, which is 17 months from start to finish. And then I want to highlight while it's a different development, it has some similarities. My partners and I did a redevelopment project in downtown Atlanta at 5 Points. It's the county of Fulton, which is the county that Atlanta is in, acquired this property in 1996 for the Olympics. They went to a full RFP process for an adaptive reuse. We ended up winning the bid. We worked with the city to kind of keep, the homage of the building, of the history, and ultimately, we put a 22,000 square foot Walgreens there, but this is the completed project. It's unlike any other Walgreens you'll see anywhere in the country. It kind of kept with tradition. The first drop of Coca-Cola was actually poured across the street, so there's a lot of history on this site. And through the process, we won a couple of awards in Atlanta for that redevelopment. So I'm very familiar with working with cities. I want to reiterate that I'm your partner in this. I'm not just a developer trying to shove some design idea to you. I want to hear what you have to say. Do you like the tower? Do you like the fountain? Is there something else that we should do? Do you like the entrance archway? These are ideas. I think they certainly add value to the development. But this project is for you, and by you, council members, and the people. So let's find out what they want and try and implement it. And then kind of the development team, we'll call it qualifications and whatnot. But that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation, and we'll go now to address any issues from or questions from agency members. I'll start with the council agency member Donahue.
Do I get to start this time?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, everybody tells us that vertical is the way we have to go. And the only people who disagree are the builders. So, we know that if we can build a 2, 3, 4-story building, we'll recoup our losses, our tax base will go up, and we can afford the project. So my question is, I know you're going to tell me no, that's not true, but just hear me out. So with University of South Florida being right here, we are part of the university, and we consider them to be a big part of us. If you had someone, as you're approaching, have you approached any of these researchers or anyone? Have you done any partnership vetting from USF?
I have not gone to USF specifically, no. I have talked with a couple office brokerage firms, Patrick Berman and Bruce, I know you're working with them. They're retail brokers, they're land brokers, so, I mean, even within their own firm, they have individuals that specialize in the office space. And the problem is, we're competing against Vinnick's project in downtown Tampa, where he's doing a $3 billion 8 million square foot redevelopment that USF has done a medical school down there. Everybody wants to be in this big, high-end, new, trendy area. Maybe the Ray Stadium's going to go there. That's where things are.
That's what we're looking for too.
I understand. I mean, that's where things are trending, but you don't have the scape necessarily. By the scape, the 20-acre or 12-acre corner is certainly not a small development, but you're competing against somebody that's going to put 8 million square feet versus a couple 100,000 square feet. And I alluded to, I work in the downtown area. The vacancy rate on the retail side in Safety Harbor is probably about 25-30%. The vacancy rate in the office area is probably 40 or 50%. And the tenants that are there are mom and pop financial advisors, CPAs, some, that type of use, which is a great use to have. I'm not knocking it whatsoever. I have my office there. There are individuals that seek that type of space for rent, but as a developer, and if we tried to develop that, we would literally go bankrupt in this project, trying to do mixed use with an office component, and you'll be stuck with a partially leased vacant space that feels vacant, and quite frankly just doesn't work. Another component is to get to the density that you're looking for. You're now talking about a parking structure development, which substantially increases the cost of the development and just becomes unsustainable from a development
Okay.
scope.
So since density is important to any new commercial development, do you think that your project could be viable as a standalone, or do we need to pick one of these apartments to go with it?
My project is viable as a standalone. That being said, I hope to be working with an apartment developer on design ideas and ways to implement some kind of carryover between the two development and not leave it all to the city. And I don't think Neely's going to yell wherever you are. Prior to them going for the entire piece, we had some conversations, and we talked about potentially working together. And when I say working together, I say that very loosely. It's really just sharing design ideas, matching colors, maybe some architectural features, things like that. And that's something that whoever ends up on the apartment side, we absolutely would intend on doing and look forward to working with. But as it's configured, I'm ready to go. I don't need another partner. I have the retail pieces in place to close on this property in 150 days and start my work.
Okay, so you have a financial institution that
Correct.
is ready to go?
Correct.
All right. As far as the other options, so the restaurants, are these restaurants that can live in a building that looks like you're proposing? And they don't
Yes.
need to have some special,
Correct. These are inline, more traditional, quick service restaurants. Some sit-down component, but they're not the 7,000 square foot, freestanding chain restaurants.
like no chain coffee shops?
So well,
This is what everybody's looking for.
so that leads us to another question. Yes, per code, that would be a restaurant with a drive-through. So I know one of you asked about what variances we'd be looking for. If I would be happy to put a coffee shop in, and there is demand for that, I would need a variance for it.
And all coffee shops have drive-throughs?
All expanding new ones.
Okay.
I can't say, no, look, there are Starbucks, there are Paneras, there are Einsteins that do not have drive-throughs. They will not approve a new site without a drive-through.
That's good to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. I certainly appreciate your interest in our city and this long-awaited development that many of us have hoped for. Just a couple of questions I have. I think you've heard pretty much most of the dialogue this evening. What parking ratio would you anticipate there in your project?
So we're looking in about 7 parking spaces per 1,000. Most codes, here's a little bit different, because this is the downtown. You actually have a lesser requirement than a lot of other places. But most restaurants and most codes look for about 10 parking spaces per 1,000 for restaurant usage and 5 parking spaces per 1,000 for traditional retail. So with the blend of about 7 and the blend of uses, you're gonna fall in line with what those requirements traditionally are.
What do you anticipate your average square foot being, price per square foot?
Low to mid 30s, and that came on top of that.
Okay.
So the retailers will be paying around $40 a foot, and they take in their additional expenses.
Okay. And that's a number you're comfortable with, because that certainly would be raising the bar in that corridor. That's higher than any.
Absolutely, but I think any developer here will say that you can't develop new structure and expect anything less than $30 a foot in rent. So there is a tremendous amount of demand. While yes, we're raising the bar, you do have a sought-after corner. The traffic counts are there, the density is there. There are a lot of attributes that the retailers are looking for. So I do believe that it's doable. And again, I wouldn't have made a presentation, wouldn't have submitted an offer if I didn't feel that the use was there. And by sticking to a 20 to 25,000 square foot rural development, it's a scope that is easily fillable. A true kind of downtown Main Street where you're trying to fill 50 to 80,000 square feet of kind of sort of inline retail, the demand just isn't there. But for what I'm proposing, the demand is. Sorry.
Thank you.
I'd like to switch gears a little bit, if I may, and talk about Paragon.
Sure.
You guys were apparently born this year.
So,
Well, let me finish. Two of your partners were ex-Encore, is that correct?
they're not X, they are. So I have partners on this project. So I've been in the development industry since 2005. Spent a couple years in the residential side, moved over to retail in 2007. Prior to founding my own company, I ran the southeast arm of Leon Capital Group, which is a national real estate investment development company. They do apartments, multifamily, retail, self-storage. They do some residential, single-family lots as well. It's a $2 billion company worth of property under management. But ultimately, I decided to go out on my own, which is what I did this year. So yes, it is my first year. I've single-handedly completed about 35 projects in the Tampa area. between my partners and I, we have completed in excess of 80 projects, and they are my partner. Some from a financial standpoint, some from a development assistant standpoint. They are a larger company than I am. The project manager that they have on staff is a licensed architect.
And he's the architect that you live here?
Correct.
So he's really an Encore?
He is, but we're hand in hand in this. I mean, our future is aligned on this project, but I am the decision maker. They're a minority partner within the company, so again, all decisions run through me, but some support runs through them, and I strategically did that to make sure that this development got the attention that it needed. I'm a small company. I have a couple other projects. I just don't want any of my projects, much less one of this magnitude, to fall through the cracks. So I thought it made more sense to partner with somebody. And quite frankly, so there's a history between myself and Encore. I used to work there, half a decade ago. They're friends. We collaborated on a couple other things. And quite frankly, I was working with Encore on the financial institution that I'm trying to place. I was working with them then with the last company to try and place them in the development when they were doing it. So I have some history on this side as well. And then they have history, and I think it just made sense to partner up on this one.
How many projects has Paragon done this year since you've been in business?
So I'm full disclosure, I don't have any complete. I have 3 that are under entitlement right now, and will start construction Q1 of next year.
And those 3 are all 100% Paragon projects? Or
Yes.
Okay. Is the Encore partners that you have, is that the downtown Encore, they're the same people?
No, they are not.
Okay.
They are not.
Totally different?
Totally different, no affiliation whatsoever.
Okay.
Just happenstance, same name.
Happen to have the same name?
Correct.
Okay. I might have some more questions, but we'll move on.
Thank you, Mr. Moon, for coming in and expressing your interest in Temple Terrace and making the presentation. So I'm assuming, I don't know if you said this or not, but I'm assuming you would build all of this at once?
Correct.
Okay. You plan to keep this and manage it, or sell it once it's completed?
So at the end of the day, I'm what's called a merchant developer, and that means that I build it, I stabilize it, and I ultimately will sell it, and that's how I recoup capital to go on to the next deal.
Okay.
Now, I think that's beneficial to you from a tax revenue standpoint, because you will be getting top of the market rents on an actual transaction versus some sort of imputed as-built cost, something along those lines.
Let me ask you another question. It wasn't clear from the renderings, and this is a challenge for anybody. As you know, that's a unique piece of property down there. If you've looked at the challenges that we faced with the Burger King, which is the front of the building? Is it 56th Street, or is it towards
Right.
what we're trying to build as a downtown? How will you tackle that issue with these buildings? Will there entrances to these buildings be on 56th, or?
So some of that will be dictated upon the tenant, and they'll, from a facade standpoint, it will look like both sides of the front. You will not have a back of the house, a traditional back of the house. It's just a flat wall, no windows, where all the equipment is. Both front and back of the building will have windows, will have doors. Some of the doors, at the tenant's preference, may be kind of faux doors, show only. But the financial institution, for example, will have entrances on both sides. We've completed a couple projects for them where they are streetscape, and they do have doors front and back. So,
Well, this is probably getting ahead of the game here a little bit, but as you know, what we hope to eventually happen is that all of this property develops, and the focal point is not 56. The focal point is what I guess would you call behind the buildings, where the people park.
sure.
What we are trying to avoid, or hoping to avoid, is a situation where people would come in, park, and then have to walk around
No.
to the 56th Street side to get in.
If there is one door, it will be on the parking side, because retailers want easy access. Or you drive up and park, you want to come in the store, you're not going to want to walk around the building. So every retailer will have a door on the parking side.
Okay.
Some may elect to have some on the street side, but they will all have it on the parking side.
Okay. Thank you.
Just going to ask again, Mr. Chilari asked the first group about any concessions that you would be requesting from the city in order to do this project as far as financial concessions.
No financial concessions, no. From a variance standpoint, I alluded to it earlier, I think a coffee shop would be a great fit. I can tell you that no coffee shop today will go without a drive-through, so that's something to consider. Another variance would be the two-story height requirement. I can certainly build something to that design, but without having an actual second floor with users up there, I don't know. In my opinion, it's not needed, but if that's something that you're stuck with, we can certainly design to that.
Can I go back to that parking?
Sure.
On Bullard? The way the concept model looks, and I realize this is scribbles compared to what you're going to have to give us eventually. It doesn't appear that there's any parking on 56 or Burler.
No, there's no parking on 56. All the
Okay.
buildings are streetscape.
Okay.
Pushed up onto the sidewalk.
I wanted to make sure, because in your presentation, you indicated that there could be outdoor seating in this corner plaza.
In the corner, yes, absolutely.
Right, and the same thing on the other institutions that face 56th Street.
So, to
So
answer
there's
your question,
walkability here?
there is walkability there. Your code calls for 8-foot sidewalks.
Mm-hmm.
We will do that at a minimum. Sometimes it's 10 feet. It just depends. But from a parking standpoint, I envisioned.
Okay.
Not parking, seating.
Seating.
Seating
Okay.
standpoint on the
All right.
wings.
That's what I thought I heard before. Thank you.
And just to clarify for everybody, what he was showing was the end of the retail buildings where he would put, the slide was up here earlier, where he was showing agency member Donahue, where seating would be at the end caps of each building.
The north and south side of each building, as opposed to the east or west. So not towards the parking lot, not towards the street, but on the northernmost building towards the fountain and then towards the driveways into the project.
Council, agency member Gorlish.
How do you envision, well, first of all, what type of construction are we talking about? We're talking about block, I guess.
Correct.
Right? Now, do you normally, how's the construction go? Are you gonna hire a GC? Is that Encore's job?
No, it's I'm running this project soup to nuts with some internal project management support. Pat, the licensed architect, will work with the engineers, architects to make sure this project runs seamlessly, that sort of thing. But we take this project out to bid, and we will hire a third-party construction company to oversee the project.
And and what's your involvement with the actual construction? You out there looking at it? Is that something you leave to your architect, or how's that handled?
It's a combination. So we do, some various testing throughout the construction process to make sure that what is being built is actually what was drawn up. Our architect and engineers do that. I'm on site about once a week, so I make sure that it's going smoothly. And then our project manager will be on site about once a week as well. So it's kind of a combination of all three.
When you say our project manager, he's your employee?
I share the cost of him, so yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. At this point, we're going to open it up to comments or oh yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Got a little bit of ahead. My apologies. We have the presentation, item D from the Wagner Property Group. Okay, thank you. That's why I jumped ahead, because I thought I had heard that already from the city manager, that they would not be here to present this evening.
So there's nothing on that project at all?
We have no presentation from the Wagner Property Group, except what has already been.
Right.
Did they provide us with more information? Do we have that in the packet, or we just have neither? Okay.
And it looks to be the same information we had before.
Right, Wagner has not provided any update. No, all the information was provided that was posted on the agenda, and it's already presented. They will not make a presentation here this evening. So if anyone is interested in making comments or has questions, if you could please turn in a form to the Assistant City Clerk. Over here, we have a couple of already, and this way we can make some presentations. Again, this is informational. We'll be making any final discussions on this matter on November 7th. The first person I have to comment is Mr. Robert Berlin. Obviously, the discussion is the downtown redevelopment. I think we'll have someone bring you the microphone. Okay, thank you very much. The next person, again on the redevelopment, is Don Statz. I believe he's still here. Okay. Thank you. Again, please state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
And Danny really want to surrender their time to me. Did you hear that?
He's got two people that want to give him his.
No, if you could just hold a little bit closer.
Okay.
No one could hear you.
Jack Scaglione
Okay.
and Mr. Pili want to surrender their time to me.
Okay, so you have two people, so you have 5 minutes then.
Okay, great.
You have that 5 minutes. Two people have surrendered the time for him. Please state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
Okay. My name is Don Statz. I live at 132 North Greenfield Avenue here in Temple Terrace. A couple of comments about the various developers. Suncoast is wanting 12.26 acres, and they want the city to pay the title insurance of $21,825. They want a 9-month closing. I'm not sure what the duration of the construction will be. The front commercial property breaks down to about $29 a square foot. The apartment property breaks down to about $10.48 a square foot. The commercial price is somewhat lower than other properties in the same area with comparable traffic rates. The Richmond Group, 8-month closing. Apartment land is $10.20 a square foot. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the same company that annexed the Autumn Place apartments off Davis Road. They were supposed to be luxury apartments. They're now Section 8. Problems with the rental proposals. The Temple Terrace current rate for rentals is 49.6%. The national average is 36.6%. That makes us 13% above national average, which is not good. These deals are really no different than the last deal that was denied by prior city council some years back. Keep in mind that someone's going to build on the river site. If these apartments are built, that will limit what can be done on that site. If the city's willing to sell the apartment property for $10.20 a square foot, that would open up a whole new opportunity for the broker. Plus, these apartments will generate 2,300 plus car trips a day. Paragon Group, 5 months to close. We'll pay $28.79 a square foot for the retail property, which again is somewhat lower than the average. The Warner Group, I don't know anything about them. In summary, we cannot have more apartments in the city. We already have 13% more than the national average. The thing that we really need down there is condominiums or townhouses. That would be something that would control what's there in the future. I have concerns about what will happen after these developers are gone. The apartments have a significantly higher number of police and fire calls compared to the number of calls that are made by citizens in single-family residence. The developers need to make sure that these properties are full, and they will adjust their rates to the market rate and the demographics. A good number of the apartment complexes we have now are not Section 8. We have 3 or 4. But again, the demographics is dictating what they rent their properties for. We should accept one of the commercial offers, and I personally think that Paragon had a great project concept and presentation. We have to remember that activity stirs activity. The broker would then have a product that is underway and hopefully draw some new interest. If we can pay the bank $3.2 million on the principal of the loan, that would allow the city the ability to renegotiate the current loan when it comes due in March or April. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker, I think I have two people. I'm not sure if they both want to speak. Again, it's opposition to apartment complexes. It's Matthew and Tara Ferguson. Do you want to speak separately or together if you're still here?
Just myself, sir.
Okay, just come up then. You have 3 minutes and state your name and address, please.
My name is Matthew Ferguson. I live at 403 Druid Hills. Less about the opposition piece. I happen to agree with the last speaker. I'm in favor of Paragon's presentation in terms of the commercial piece, but my question was more towards both the residential developers. If I understood the math on the number of units, between 265, 300 different units, and then the corresponding number of vehicles, my question to the city in general is, can 56 and Bullard handle that increased volume of traffic at that spot without additional lights, without additional infrastructure in that area? It's already a rather small area. It gets a lot of traffic during the rush hour time frame. What would be the impact of having that many more vehicles trying to compete for that space? That was my main question. With that, I'll yield the rest of my time.
Thank you. Next speaker I have is Jamie Stats.
He had to leave.
Okay. Okay. Next on redevelopment is Edward Sharding. Again, please state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
Edward Schroering, 805 Pyramid Drive. Sort of like that phrase, activity begets activity. We got $1.5 billion of redevelopment, not with Vinnick, but with Moffett, USF, University Mall. You know, still we have not tapped into that as a city. And, you know, I think Paragon has some activity. We can get started, but to, you know, unload everything right now because we're afraid of what's going to happen with $23 million debt. It sounded like a good plan. Pay down some of the debt, see if we can renegotiate. Don't lose this opportunity to control this space. That's what
Thank you very much. I do not have any other requests to speak. If anybody would like to speak, please turn in a form to the clerk so we can get you properly addressed. And I say I have one more coming up here. If anyone else would like to speak before council, please submit a form so we can get your information. And again, we will have a meeting on the 7th. The next speaker who has questions is Gary Martin. Please state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
Gary Martin, I live at 215 Linda Avenue. The question I have is, I know you all mentioned that you were concerned about Section 8. Well, is there a difference between Section 8 and tax credit property? I really have a question about that. My question is, can you legally regulate and make sure that if you do have apartments, that you can assure everyone here that that will never happen? Can you assure everyone here that we won't have a tax credit property in a very important area that everybody's trying to develop? I personally like the fact of the commercial Paragon group coming up tonight. To me, Temple Terrace in all my life has been filled with apartments. And I feel that we're just, you know, like the gentleman here said, do we have to develop the entire property? Like Mr. Fatt said, can we just redevelop or refinance the property itself? Do we have to be so regulated so quickly or do we have to feel that compelled that we have to do something that, you know, so soon? The other thing I have is, I ask council, please help us with the rezoning with the commercial district. We need laws passed, ordinances passed, so that we don't have repetitive businesses in this new development. Because we all know in Temple Terrace what a lot of the businesses are. A lot of them are repetitive. We have to make sure that whoever we ask to build the commercial district, that we get some guarantee as to what will be in there. Everyone wants restaurants, The downtown right now is down here at Outback and Carrabba's. Nobody really goes up there. We go up to the Winn-Dixie, okay. So that's the concern I have. The other one is, let's see, the guarantee of you build apartments, okay, so you build them, are you sure you're gonna get the people in those apartments? And the other, and are you sure you're gonna, we have to have some type of format or some commitment from whoever builds the apartments or the commercial, that the tenants that we're going to have, who's going to be in those buildings. And the quality. See, and I was told tonight not to really mention what I'm going to say now, but I have to tell you, I would like, as a citizen, and I appreciate, I'm probably over my 3 minutes, I wish I could just raise my hand. And I told the mayor when she was running that I think more people would be more comfortable if they could raise their hands and just ask questions, because you don't come up with everything within 3 minutes. And if we could change that within some of the meetings, I think more people would feel more comfortable. And we wouldn't feel so censored as citizens, because I feel censored, but I don't want to get off redevelopment while we're here tonight, but I do think the commercial is something that I think a lot of people are looking for, so I hope that's it. I know something.
Thank you. I have another speaker who would like to speak. I believe Ken Copenhaver. You have 3 minutes, and just give your name and address, please.
Okay, Ken Copenhaver. I live at 6403 East 113th Avenue, and I am a GIS consultant, so I do mapping, and I would be happy to help donate some time to helping with the development. I think that working with USF is a really good idea, and I'd be happy to interface with USF as well. I'm pretty new to the whole situation, so I apologize if I'm repeating anything or not clear on something. But I think one of the keys to me is if it's going to be a downtown that we're proud of in 10 or 15 years, we have to have some walkability and some bikeability to that downtown. I know that's really tough, but it's kind of a shark-infested island in a way if you've got 56 and Bullard, intersecting it. And the people that are south of Bullard that are coming over from the River Hills area, that's okay, they can walk there. But, people, like I live north of Bullard, so it's going to be hard for us to walk. So I don't know if there's like any way we could get something that we could go over Bullard or something like that to get over there. But I think that would be great if there was some consideration for that as we go forward with this, so we can make it like a downtown area.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak at this time? If not, I would ask if the developers would like to answer their questions, or the presenters would like to answer questions now, or any of those concerns, or would like to prefer to do it at the November 7th meeting, given time to ruminate over what has been said. Anybody would like to address any of those? Okay. That's why we kind of set things up here, for it to be informational and to have developers able to come up with answers to questions citizens pose at this time. Is there anyone else who has any questions or concerns or comments they would like to make regarding the meeting? Any other comments from council? Okay. Member Ross.
Just it's not to do with the developers that presented tonight, but it's a good opportunity to address the USF issue that comes up a lot. And I just want to tell the community, I've said this before, but I want to tell every chance I get, the city does dialogue on a regular and continuous basis with USF. This is not a new idea. This isn't even a new idea that I had. This has been going on since before I served on council. We partner with USF at every opportunity we get. We know we're right down the road. We know we live in the USF shadow. We get it. We've gotten it for years. This isn't anything new. But I have to tell you, in all candor, I mean, I'm a USF, I'm into the community. I'm in the USF club. I mean, I'm engaged in the USF community. I myself have made countless overtures to USF to get banners up along 56th Street during homecoming week, to do all kinds of different, can we partner during homecoming or when the kids come back to school in the fall, can we do something in Temple Terrace? All kinds of things. Folks, that's got to be a two-way thing. And right now, I'll be candid with you, we don't fit into USF's plan. It's just not happening. They're putting the wall or the fence around the campus. They're building a Publix on campus. They're building more housing on campus and north of campus. They're running the Bull Runner up north of their view, their vision, and I'm not speaking for USF, I'm just telling you what I can see with my own eyes. Their vision does not encompass Temple Terrace. Now, they're good partners. I'm not speaking ill of USF. A lot of well, not a lot, but some of the administration are friends of mine. They're just not engaged with Temple Terrace. Now, could that change? Yes. And if you have contacts or, different people that I don't know, if we could better that dialogue, please bring those people to us or to me or to any of us, really, because we would love to strengthen that relationship with USF. We've been trying to do that for years. And we've had some success, but not a lot. So I welcome that if you know somebody or there's a way that we can increase that dialogue or partnership, but I want you to know that it's already going on. Also, the development that was mentioned, all the energy that's going in the University Mall area, west of campus, there's a lot of energy. Most of that centers around Innovation Place, or what used to be known as the Innovation Alliance. We're deeply embedded in the Innovation Alliance. We spend a lot of your money every year paying to be part of the Innovation Alliance. We have a seat at the table. We go to the meetings. We're part of that. But again, we fall within their boundaries, but there's very little attention being given to the east end of their boundaries where we fall. Almost all of their energy is going into west of campus, University Mall area, north of campus, up along 42nd, 46th. There's not much being looked at on the east end. And Busch Gardens is a big part of that. We're at the table. We are engaged with that. And it's not free. We're paying money to be engaged in that. And thus far, I have to tell you, and I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, we've seen no fruit from that yet. We've made significant financial investments in that, and nothing has come our way. So, again, I tell you that because I want you to know that we're not asleep at the wheel. We are doing these things. And also to ask for your help. If you know people at USF or you know people in the Innovation Alliance and you can help to spark some interest in Temple Terrace, please bring them our way. We'd love that. So I just want you to know that we're not, ignorant to the fact that we're next door to USF. We get that. Thank you.
Are there any other agency member comments? Agency member Chuler.
Thank you, and I want to take a moment, first of all, and thank all of the developers that have expressed interest in Temple Terrace. Whether your project is spoken of in favor, I just want to say thank you for expressing interest. I think the problem that the city faces is that we want the pie in the sky, but we have to be realistic with what we have. And I think any developer realizes that. As many of you, I've asked questions, and you're very reluctant to give information because some of those things you don't know. That's when I asked the retail question of $30 a square foot. That raises the bar very high. Fowler and 56th Street, you can get that. 56 and Bush, it's not going to happen unless you create an environment. And I think that's what's needed is the energy, the organization that has the wherewithal to make that happen. What Mr. Ross talked about, the engagement, a developer that has skin in the game can engage those folks over there and tie it. Just last week, to give you an example, I have a lawyer in town said, we need to do something in Temple Terrace. We want to create transportation to downtown Tampa, and we don't want to use the Heartline bus service because it's too inconvenient, it takes too long. So we met with Mark Sharp. Mark Sharp said, absolutely, we're gonna do something. This law firm, with other law firms, guaranteed a base rate that they would pay every month to get a pilot program running. My point is, when you have somebody that steps up that has the money, because everybody wants this big, beautiful picture, but they don't want to pay for it, okay? They want Mediterranean, they want towers, they want barrel tile roofs, but guess what? That costs money, folks. And when your prices are $30 a square foot, these little shops are going to say, well, I can go next door for $12. Why am I going to pay you? That's what the challenge is going to be, and that's what some of the folks don't want to understand. And I think that's what our challenge is. There's got to be a balance. We have to have the right folks at the table, maybe a team of folks at the table. But this has gone on 12, 13, 14, 15 years. If this was New Tampa or in Carrollwood, that'd be done a long time ago. But we're faced with challenges, guys. It's not because this council doesn't know what they're doing. It's because of the demographics we're in and the economic challenge we faced, and certainly the downfall in the economy and the recession didn't help. So I think everybody's trying very hard. I think that we all want the same end result, but we have to line the field up with the right players. And I'm not going to say, I don't like your project. I like all your projects, but we have to look at what is the best fit for Temple Terrace. That's really what it's going to boil down to. I would like at the next meeting, in the meantime, in the interim, the gentleman spoke earlier, and it was going to be one of my questions to staff, but since it was brought up, if the proposals that are presented have any consideration to traffic mitigation, because you're putting 250, 300 apartments and additional retail. It's gridlock traffic at 5 o'clock down there. 56th Street is governed by FDOT, and the county handles Bullard Parkway. It's not really a Temple Terrace, I don't want to say responsibility, but it's funded by those other organizations. And in addition to that, there was a question from two developers brought forth, and I spoke to Mr. Conley and the broker. One of them wanted to look at the whole project, and then another one had looked at the whole project if there was a breakdown on the $7.7 million of what that would be if it's just the retail versus the residential, just so we compare apples to apples. You guys are in negotiating phases. Nothing's etched in stone. It's a very unfair process because we have to go through this public process. That's the way it works. In a private deal, you speak to the broker, your information is not shared with the general public, or yours. In this case, all the cards are revealed, so you're sort of negotiating publicly with each other, which I don't think is fair, but we have to do it that way sitting up here. So I just think we got to get this on the road, and we got to get it right this time. We've been through this 2, 3, 4 times, and I want to thank all of you for being here, but I am so frustrated right now that this room is not overflowing and people standing in line outside, because the biggest, most important thing in Temple Terrace is redevelopment, and you have maybe, 50 people in this room. That's not right. Everybody, during every election, everybody, redevelopment's number one thing. Well, where the hell are you? Yeah. Right now is the time to talk about it. If you don't want to come and talk about it, then be quiet. But I think all of us are very emotional. This is the future of our city. We have to make something happen. I've been involved here a long time. This is long overdue. The city needs this shot in the arm to revitalize it and rebuild the character and image that we have, because it's a great community. We care. We're all up here because we care, and you guys are there because you care. And we got to make this happen. So I just want to say thank you all for being here, but it's a lot harder than what it actually looks. One person to make a decision, it's a government body, and then there's the citizens that give input as well. So it's not like you make a decision at your house, let's put a new roof on, let's do it. It's a different environment. It's the people's project. So I want to encourage you all to please stay involved and engaged. And the next council meeting is very important. At least I can speak for myself, my mind's not made up. I don't know which way I want to go because I want to know as much as I can before I make that decision. But I want to thank you all for being here and also the residents for taking the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I hope that tonight, and I appreciate everybody being here as long as you can. I realize there's a World Series game to go home and watch them, and I'll be brief. I hope this meeting laid to rest that we were looking for the highest payer. Because I've heard that a lot. Oh, you're just going to sell it off. Let's just sell it. Let's just get it done. There are lots of questions here, not only softball questions, aesthetics and sidewalks and things like that, but, the rates and especially the one about concessions. We have a plan that we're supposed to live by, and it's been refined, it's been looked at, it's been changed over the years, because what we thought we wanted, 15 years ago, 12, 15 years ago, what we thought we had to have is not viable, it's not livable. We can't build it, no one will come. You can't just build it and they will come. That's only in the movies. So I want to make sure that we understand, as well as the developers understand, that we are going to ask you to live as closely to that document as you possibly can. Because if we give up, we will be disappointing our citizens. And if we give up, we will eventually disappoint ourselves, because we will have given up our right to the serious negotiations that will come down the road. So my intention is to stay as close to this document as I possibly can. I know that each of you are thinking, oh man, she's going to make me build 2-story commercial. Boy, if I could, I would. I'm not telling you that I'm not easily giving up on that, but I hear you. I'm just saying that I'm living by that do the math mantra, which is go up, young man, and there will be money at the top. So thank you again to everybody who came tonight, and I hope to see a full house next week when we not only talk about this again, but we also will officially inaugurate our mayor that night. So it could be a long night. So thank you.
Again, thank you for the developers for being here this evening, and thank you for everyone. And City Manager Charles Stevenson will make an announcement. What? Yeah. I'll let everybody know that right now the CRA meeting next Tuesday, November 7th will start at 5 p.m.